The first time my gynecologist went silent, I thought it was my imagination. The room was already too quiet, just the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic beep of a machine that sounded like a distant heartbeat. Silence, I would later realize, can be louder than screaming. And in that silence, my life quietly split into before and after. I had gone to the appointment alone like always. Ethan, my husband of 11 years, had texted me an hour earlier. Late meeting. Rain check. His messages had become short lately, stripped of warmth like receipts instead of love letters. I told myself it was stress. He told me it was work. I believed him because believing was easier than imagining the alternative. Dr. Mara Levin wasn't the kind of gynecologist who rushed. She had calm eyes and steady hands, the kind of woman who made you feel safe even while delivering news you weren't ready to hear. That day, though, her hands paused. Her brow furrowed slightly. "Have you had any procedures recently?" she asked casually. "No," I said, staring at the ceiling tiles. One of them had a crack shaped like a lightning bolt. I'd stared at it through every pregnancy scare, every annual checkup. Felt like an old acquaintance. She didn't respond immediately. I heard her adjust something, then sigh. Quietly, but not quietly enough. "Are you still trying to conceive?" she asked. The question landed heavy in my chest. We were. Not recently. That wasn't entirely true. Had been trying. Tracking cycles. Swallowing disappointment every month like a pill too big for my throat. Ethan, on the other hand, had started avoiding the conversation altogether. Dr. Levin removed her gloves and rolled back on her stool. She looked at me, then really looked at me. "Something is off," she said carefully. "And I need to ask you something important." My heart started pounding. "Okay." She hesitated, choosing her words with surgical precision. "There are indications that suggest long-term contraceptive interference. Not accidental. Intentional." I laughed, actually laughed because the idea was absurd. "That's impossible." She didn't laugh back. "There are traces consistent with repeated exposure," she continued gently. "Certain hormonal suppressants. They don't appear naturally. And based on the pattern. This has been ongoing." The room tilted. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying," she interrupted softly, "that someone may have been preventing pregnancy without your knowledge." I felt like I'd been slapped, but from the inside. My ears rang. My hands shook. "That's illegal," I whispered. "Yes," she said. "And unethical. And dangerous." Images flooded my mind. Ethan making smoothies every morning, insisting I drink them because he cared about my health. The vitamins he handed me. The way he always volunteered to refill my prescriptions. I dressed in silence. Dr. Levin gave me resources, spoke about tests, about evidence. I barely heard her. My thoughts were already racing home, to the man who kissed my forehead every night and told me we had all the time in the world. Outside, the sky was gray, threatening rain. I sat in my car for nearly an hour before turning the key. That night, Ethan came home late. I watched him from the kitchen as he loosened his tie. His movements familiar, practiced. A stranger wearing my husband's face. "How was your appointment?" he asked casually. "Fine," I said, my voice steady despite the hurricane inside me. He smiled. And for the first time I wondered how long he'd been practicing that smile. As he went to shower, his phone buzzed on the counter. I'd never looked before. Trust is a habit. But habits can break. One message preview flashed on the screen. "She doesn't know, right?" My hands trembled as the phone buzzed again. "Make sure it stays that way." The shower ran. Steam filled the hallway. And in that moment, I realized my marriage wasn't just broken. It was built on a lie so deep it had rewritten my body without my consent. I didn't confront him. Not yet. 'Cause I needed to know why. And who else was involved. I turned the phone face down, my reflection staring back at me from the darkened screen. Eyes wide, jaw clenched, a woman standing at the edge of something irreversible. Behind the bathroom door, Ethan hummed softly. And for the first time, I felt something colder than fear rising in me. Sleep became impossible after that night. Every sound felt amplified. The ticking clock, the refrigerator's low hum, Ethan's steady breathing beside me. He slept peacefully, like a man with nothing to hide. I lay awake, replaying memories through a new lens, watching them crack and distort. The next morning I called in sick to work. My job at the marketing firm had already been hanging by a thread. Budget cuts, whispered layoffs, meetings that felt like auditions for survival. Normally I would have pushed through. That day, I couldn't even put on my shoes. Instead I waited. Ethan left at 8:15, right on schedule. I watched his car disappear down the street before moving. My hands shook as I went through the medicine cabinet. The vitamins, the supplements, the protein powder. I found it tucked behind a box of cold medicine. A small, unmarked bottle. No label. No instructions. Dr. Levin's words echoed in my head. Repeated exposure. Long-term. Took photos. Bagged it carefully. Then I did something I never imagined doing. Followed him. My car trailed his at a careful distance, my heart pounding every time he slowed. He didn't go to work. Instead, he parked outside a cafe across town, one I'd never been to with him. She was already waiting. Elegant. Confident in the way women are when they know exactly where they stand in someone's life. I watched from across the street as they hugged. Not politely, not awkwardly. Intimately. Like two people who shared history. Plans. When they sat, she reached across the table and touched his hand. He didn't pull away. Took photos. Again. But what shattered me wasn't the affair. It was what I overheard when I finally gathered the courage to sit close enough to listen. "She still thinks you're trying?" the woman asked. Ethan laughed softly. "Yeah. She's persistent. And the meds? Working perfectly," he said. "She hasn't suspected a thing." My vision blurred. My stomach twisted. "You did the right thing," the woman said. "We couldn't risk it. Not now." That word burned. I left before they noticed me, my legs barely carrying me back to the car. I vomited in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel as my world collapsed in on itself. That night, I cried alone in the shower, the water masking my sobs. Rage followed grief like a shadow. He hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He had controlled my body, my future. The next week became a blur of secret meetings. Lawyer. Another doctor. Tests confirmed it. Microdoses carefully timed. Undetectable unless you knew what to look for. I could press charges. But revenge doesn't always wear the face of justice. At work the axe finally fell. I was laid off on a Friday afternoon. My desk emptied into a cardboard box. I should have felt broken. Instead, something unexpected happened. Felt free. With nothing left to lose, I began to plan. I smiled at Ethan. Cooked dinner. Played the role he expected. Let him believe I was still in the dark. But every smile was a step closer to the moment I would take everything back. One night as he slept, I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at him. "You have no idea," I whispered. And I meant it. Because I had decided. I wouldn't just expose him. I would outgrow him. I started with myself. Therapy. Strength training. Late-night journaling sessions where I poured out every thought I'd been silencing for years. I rebuilt my confidence piece by piece, like a city after war. I found a new job, smaller, riskier, but mine. A startup that valued my voice instead of muting it. The first day, I walked in with my head high, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Ethan noticed the change. He asked questions, watched me carefully. Suspicion crept into his eyes, but I stayed calm, unbothered. The final confrontation came not with screaming, but clarity. I invited him to dinner, set the table, poured wine. Then I slid the folder across to him. Photos, test results, legal documents. His face drained of color. "I know," I said softly. "Everything." For the first time he was the one shaking. I didn't mean. You meant to control me, I said. You meant to decide my future for me. Silence swallowed the room. I'm leaving, I continued. And I've already filed. The evidence ensures you don't walk away unscathed. Tears filled his eyes. Felt nothing. Weeks later, I stood alone in my new apartment, sunlight spilling through bare windows. The air smelled like fresh paint and possibility. I placed my hand on my stomach, not with longing, not with fear, but with ownership. My body, my life. The gynecologist's silence had cracked me open. But from that fracture, I had rebuilt myself into something stronger. And as I looked out over the city that night, I smiled. Not because the pain was gone, but because it no longer owned me.